It's not about the state inherently being incompetent. It's corruption that undermines the good efforts of the state because they deploy their cronies, they deploy their cadres who know nothing about Transnet. I mean, you just take Julius Malema now to go and run Transnet because he can sing very well in political meetings. That's a recipe for disaster. So let's go for a man and a woman who's got the necessary capacity to run those institutions. Look at what Zuma's girlfriend is doing to SAA. Now, it has moved from cadres, it has moved from cronies to concubines. It has degenerated to the extreme. Somebody has to say it. It has degenerated to the extreme. It's not like SAA can't make profit. It did that before under a female CEO, black female CEO. So the problem is not state-run institutions, it's corruption. The leadership has to be firm on corruption. The ANC can't punish Zuma on corruption because they are all corrupt. It's a gangster. We are run by a gangster. And you disagree with them, they will kill you. If they don't kill you, they will expel you. They will send the institutions of the state against you. They will destroy you. Not because they want to destroy you. No, they are intimidating anyone else who wants to dare challenge them after you.
Okay, we've got a few minutes left. I just want to ask you before we wrap up. You mentioned the Gupta family.
Yeah.
You have clearly placed them in your sights as a target. You said you will drive them out of the country. They have gone, but they still seem to have an influence. What are you going to do next?
Well, we are on the Gupta's case. We're not playing. You know, when we spoke about the Guptas, we were attacked from all angles. That we are wrong, we are driving away the investors, we are doing all sorts of things, we are anarchists and all that. And then everybody else came, the banks, said, no, there is a problem here. We're closing their accounts. And then everyone else said, yeah, these Guptas are a problem. Why? Because it is now said by a white man that these people are a problem. Because the white man owns the banks. So they are a problem. And the problem of the Guptas is actually promoted by Zuma. Because I used to think the Guptas are giving him small money until I was made aware that they're giving him millions of money, cash. Zuma said he was going to sue me because I said he took money to Dubai and he must do that. He must sue me. Because Zuma is benefiting directly from the Guptas. The ANC stopped the Gupta investigation because Zuma said so. Zuma said to Gauteng PGC, do you know what is the state? The state is the judiciary, the legislature, and the executive. When you say there is a capture, have they captured judiciary? Have they? And then no one dares to challenge him that they've captured you, and you are the head of the state, and once they've captured the head of the state, they've captured the state.
Yes, this might have been a video that was done a few years ago while Zuma was still the president. But listen up, you people who are saying, oh, all the videos, this and that, the problems that were there when Zuma was there are still the problems that are there when Cyril Ramaphosa is here. What can you learn? You see? The problem with African leaders is that we tend to worship the white people. It has to be the white person who has to say something for the Africans to accept it. The African cannot say something and a fellow African accept it. Or rather, an African can't say something and a white person accept it. It has to be said by an individual with a white skin who has to say something for Africans and everyone to accept. That is not right, that is not equality, that is not justice. Justice has to be said, and justice has to follow the path of truth, despite who is saying it, despite their skin color, despite their texture of hair, despite whatever. The truth is the truth, and it does not choose the mouth which it comes from. You hear? Africans should stop electing corrupt leaders. You shall know them by their fruits. You shall know them by their fruits. If a certain family, people of certain character comes from that family, when you meet a person from that family, you're likely to think they have the same behavior. That is how it goes, you know. Birds of the same feathers, they flock together. You can't find a bird with a different color or a different family flocking together. No. They'll always be flocking together because they resemble each other. They are in agreement. Two can't walk unless they're in agreement. There's a lot you can learn from Julius Malema. Him telling you about the Guptas. The Guptas are an Indian family that lived here. There's a lot you can tell from this.
With everything we have.
You fighting the army? With
We're
what?
fighting the state violence. The state violence will be met with violence. That's what the ANC did. The ANC was the most peaceful organization until the 60s, when they could no longer tolerate violence, which was meted at them by the apartheid regime. They applied the same strategy. We will apply the same strategy they used against apartheid.
Are you not putting your supporters' lives at risk by saying that?
No, I'm putting my life at risk. There's no supporter who will go. I will go myself. I've always led from the front. There's no way where EFF supporters have been and I've not been there. I believe in this, I will do it myself. And even when a member was shot, I didn't make a U-turn. I went into the same streets where a member was shot. I addressed, after addressing, I went door to door in the same areas where the member was shot. So it's unfortunate the member was shot before I arrived. But I went there, I did not make a U-turn, and to put such a question to suggest that we are not there is actually disingenuous, because the event you are referring to, I was there, and I led from the front. So I don't hesitate to lead from the front. There is no Zuma and the ANC talk about barrels of guns and all those things.
But you
because
use the
they
term,
want
not them.
No, yes. I said that. Yes, I said, and I will repeat it anyway. If you use violence against us, we are prepared to take up arms in defense of our revolution.
Where would you get the arms from?
The arms are everywhere. Arms can be found anywhere. If there is a political
Not here
will,
today.
we will find. No, even here, there is arms here.
Okay.
You may not be aware. Let someone react in a very bad way. It's going to be taught a lesson.
Okay.
Very quick.
Yeah, I'll behave myself.
Don't be misled. All we are saying is that let's fight a peaceful fight. And we are doing that. We went to Mpumalanga to vote, to campaign. Our members were shot. We went to KZN to campaign. Our members were shot. And I said to the members, don't respond, because this is a provocation. The enemy is shaking. The enemy is actually accepting unwittingly that this is an unstoppable train of economic freedom. So we must not take up arms to self-destruct. We must not self-destruct, because the enemy is going to set us up to self-destruct. So this thing is coming out very nicely, it's gelling nicely. And we are going to take over this government, you won't believe it. And there will not be a single drop of blood. There will never be, not under my instruction. Not under my, but if we are fought, there will be levels where our members will say to the leadership, we have tolerated this for far too long now.
You can't continue to run a municipality based on anger and discontent. What is then happens?
I just want you to show me anger and discontent in the manifesto of the EFF. Because we are not running this on anger and discontent. We are running this on an alternative left perspective. Because there is a vacuum in terms of left politics. And we identified that vacuum. Because nature does not allow a vacuum. We occupied that space. We came in because the Communist Party is a spaza shop. It's dead. We came in because there is no alternative on the left. And that's how we zoom in. So we don't exist on the basis of anger and discontent. And that's why when we run SRCs in the University of Limpopo and everywhere else, We deliver to every commitment. There is no anger and discontent. We said to the University of Limpopo, we are going to give every student free meal, especially the poor of the poorest. And then there was noise. Where are you going to get the money? This is rhetoric. And then we went into the SRC. We took the money of Freshers' Ball and entertainment and alcohol, redirected it to giving poor students free meal every day. We are doing it every day. So where is anger and discontent? There is no anger and discontent. It's a left politics that takes care of the poor masses of our people.
You know, it's so much interesting how Julius Malema, let me push this thing behind me. It's very interesting how Julius Malema is very vocal in saying that he will fight for the rights of the black majority in South Africa. And remember, as I always tell you, Malema isn't against white minority. Malema is always fighting for justice. That is one thing people should understand. Malema ain't against white person. Malema wants justice. And you see, you could see that the judges or whoever invited him, we have that Indian lady and we have that white gentleman. These two people represent, actually there are three people, Malema, the woman, and the Indian woman, and the Caucasian male, the bald one, okay? So these people are representing individuals in South Africa. We have the black original, we have the Indians who came as workers in South Africa, and then we have the Caucasians who came as settlers. They came for refreshment and decided to stay. We know all that story, okay? So these people are representatives of South Africa. And you know, they're asking Malema, don't you get tired of the fights? Don't you get tired of always saying this, always saying that? Malema is answering this thing very, very nicely, and he's not angry with what the woman is saying. The woman was pushing questions after questions. I don't think she was even thinking of the next question she's going to ask. She was just talking impulsively, because Malema, at one particular video, this Indian woman who tried to exchange words with Malema, and as smart as Malema is, she tried to tell the woman that Africans are the original inhabitants of Africa, and that the Indians only came here to work and we allowed them to stay in South Africa. So she shouldn't try and oppress the black people. That was how Malema answered the Indian lady. And so there was also a Khoisan woman in that other previous video. She was saying that the South African lands belong to the Khoisan. To me, that's tribalism. That's a topic of another day. Let's focus on this one. So Malema are black. The white lady, the white guy, Caucasians. The Boers and the British. The Boers, is it really the Boer? I don't want to call them the Boers, the Afrikaners. And then we have the Indians, okay? Now, this interview, I felt like the lady was not being fair to Malema. Malema was acting at almost to the state of rage, but not really outrageous. He wasn't really outrageous. He was just being Malema, the Malema that we know, okay? So I love the fact that also Malema, he said that he didn't leave any of his people behind. When shots were fired, he was there and he continued to proceed. The lady also asked, what will you do for your people? Will you harm your people in this process? He said, no, I'll harm myself. We don't have many leaders who look like that here in Africa. There are so few of them. Leaders who will die for their cause, there are so few of them. So Mandela is just a precious gem that Africans have. I know. You might be having a different opinion, perspective of Julius Malema, but Malema has his good parts. Without further ado, let's proceed to the other remaining parts of this video.
They will never get that. They will never get that message because they don't come to the meetings. Why are they not coming to meetings? They don't need anything. Once I stop bicycle lanes, they will come. I'm going to grab them there and politicize them.
Okay, let's talk about the economy, because the economy is a big issue in our country at the moment. What can you do as the leader of the economic freedom fighters, to lend to economic and political stability in our country? What do you think we need to do that we're not doing?
We need political leadership with political will. The leadership must have integrity. The leadership must be selfless. And once you've got respectable leadership, that's the first step in the right direction. Then you ought to now make sure that the realization actually means greater state control and ownership. But it doesn't mean a complete ban of private participation. So we need government to be involved. The British must stop telling us that, no, capital will leave South Africa if the state gets involved in business. It's not true. After the world wars, the state took ownership of the economy of Britain, rebuilt it to be what it is today. When there was a crisis in the US, the state came in, rescued those banks, which is a clear indication these people can't rescue themselves. The state will always have to be there for them. And we're saying to them, we want to now walk with you so that you don't drown. There is no best partner you can get than a state as your partner. Stop being crybabies. Accept that the state is here to work with you to rebuild this economy, and the state, through the profits made out of such huge transactions.
So when Julius Malema is saying that we can't do anything without the help of the state, Julius Malema is trying to represent the positive, the strengths of the socialism. Socialism is state-backed instead of the opposite of capitalism, which is individual or privately backed. So the communism or the socialism is a state of government where they're trying to have equality in terms of individuals having natural resources. In capitalism, somebody might accumulate as much as they can, while at the same extent, someone else might miss to the lowest, and somebody who is having the highest might be taking from the person who has the lowest. That is how I understand Malema with his ideology of socialism. He borrows a lot of socialism ideologies from Cuba, from China. Actually, he uses China as an example of how successful socialism could be and why South Africa in the future could be a socialist republic. I don't know if those people from the West, you know them, will allow socialism to prevail in South Africa, because you know we also have white people in South Africa. White people are always against socialism. It's not their thing. It's never ever their thing. But Malema is pushing for this socialism. In socialism, individuals will have equal opportunity to growth. Individuals will have equal opportunity to accumulate wealth. And for me, I think Julius Malema is fighting a good fight here. I'm thinking socialism is a really nice thing. Individuals should, countries should emulate, according to how I could hear from Malema. And I also have my opinion. I support socialism. What's wrong with that? I support socialism.
Will reinvest that money in the social program to make South Africa a better place. It's not only the issue of socialism. Just generally, the oil thing is not working. It's like the problems that we had during the nationalization of steel, no, not steel, copper. They nationalized it at a point where copper was not doing well as a commodity, and those mines failed. And when those mines failed because the commodity was not doing well, they attributed that to nationalization. It's not correct. State-owned institutions, they are not inherently incompetent. One of them is AXA in South Africa. We build the best airports, and yet that is a state-owned company. To build an airport is not like building some useless things. It's a complicated thing, yet the state company is doing it very well. Dinel used to do very well before this one, Makanda Kanda, the headman, came in and destroyed it with the Guptas. Transnet used to do very well before Zuma cronies destroyed it.
Let me add something on socialism. Socialism is communism, is a form of communism. where the state owns properties, as I told you of that. Now, Malema is trying as hard as he can to provide evidence that indeed socialism is working and can work. He said about this company called Aska. I don't know of Aska, but I know Transnet. I've heard of Transnet. I've seen Transnet in some news back then. These are government owned institutions, and they're performing really well. It does not have to be an individual owning this. About an individual and the state owning something is different. When the state owns something, the profit goes to the people. It goes to the needs of the people. But if it is a personally or a privately owned company or a product, what happens is that the profits does not benefit the economy of that country. Most of these companies we have here in, say, Kenya, let's say we have many companies here in Kenya that are not Kenyans. People from afar come here and build their companies, private companies. So the profit they take here, they push it back to their countries, majority of the profit. So it does not really help the economy of the country as much as the state-owned companies would have. That is a right side of communism, if you come to think of it. And also, Cuba is a failed state of communism or socialism because the USA had placed serious sanctions on the Cuban government. Fidel Castro was an enemy of the US government, if you can remember really well. So the sanctions that were placed on Cuba is what made Cuba to be a poor country. Otherwise, Cuba would not have been a poor country. Cuba would have grown to be one of the best and prosperous socialist republics that we've ever seen, or we will, from it, many countries would have been influenced in the Caribbean to also be communist. And so they tried hard not to spread the idea of communism by sanctioning Cuba. So if a capitalist is arguing with a socialist and they bring the card of Cuba, then we also bring the card of USA sanctions. We also bring the card of China. If they bring USA capitalist, we bring Chinese communist. We have many countries as such. It's a good thing Mandela has these visions. So let's proceed and see what's next.